Hi everybody, welcome to the Wren Guitar Workshop tour. Here we are, just walking into the front hall, some photos of folks I used to work with, the 12th Fret crew, the old John Larrivee shop, John, William Laskin, Linda Manser, Sergey DeJong, G.W. Barry, Tony Duggan Smith, George Gray. Here we are in the stationary power tool room, the usual suspects, my old Rockwell bandsaw, general table saw, Poitras jointer, collection of routers. There's John Larrivee's old sign I keep up for good luck, Performax thickness sander, belt sander, drill press, and a portable go deck. Here we are walking into the climate controlled assembly room, my clamp rack, a couple of stacks of tone wood that I've had stickered and fanning for umpteen years, some tops and backs, hand planes, radiused work boards. There's the strobe that I keep track of the resonant frequencies with, a signal generator for some free plate tuning experiments, my old bench that I made with John back in the 70s. There's an Italian spruce Brazilian cutaway that'll be strung up and shipped down to a customer in New York shortly. Here we are walking into the French polish room, a Lutz Koa 12 string and a Cocobolo cutaway that'll be shipped to a customer in Singapore. Here's some photos. I'm lucky enough to get to do some of the photo work for the other builders in town. There's the Manser Matheny guitar. Here's some shots I did of other builders such as Ann Hartman, G.W. Barry, Ed Klein, Sergey DeJong, some more Manser, Marquette, Tony Duggan Smith, Douglas Harrison, George Gray, some just fantastic builders. I'm so lucky to get to see those guitars and photograph them. Here we are walking into the room that I use as a combination office, reception area, and photo studio. There's my backdrop cloth, tripod, strobe light with the bounce umbrella. I'll just go through some of the processes briefly. I'm old school when it comes to bending. I just use my old bending pipe. Here I am bending a set of cloud-figured Cocobolo. Then I'm clipping in some kerfed lining in the cutaway concert frame. And here I am, I made a 15-foot radius sanding dish to sand the back of the frame to accept the back. I just shuffle the sanding dish over it and then touch it up with my dad's old hand plane. Here I am with the Go deck, gluing back struts on. The fiberglass Go sticks apply really even pressure, and once the glue's dried I hog away some of the struts with the block plane and then start fine-tuning the back resonant frequencies, utilizing the strobe to keep track of the notes I'm tuning to. I go back to the Go deck to actually glue the back onto the frame, at which point I start the selection process for tops, using the normal criteria, flexing, tapping, the deflection properties, strength to weight ratio. Here I am with the shooting board and a hand plane, shooting the joint for the top, the book matched top, and then I rough process the top, cut the outline, thickness sand it, and then I do some more deflection testing once the top's further processed, the rosette's installed, the sound hole's cut. And then I go on to tap tuning the top, both for general resonant properties and for specific notes. Both deflection tuning and tap tuning are extremely powerful tools. Not very practical if you're in a production environment, but for the individual luthier when you're hand building a guitar, tap tuning and deflection tuning are very powerful tools in keeping a consistently responsive tone from your instruments, even though you're using many different woods. Here I am, now that the guitar is boxed, I'm routing the ledge on the edge to accept the decorative purfling. In this case it's ebony binding, and I use rope to apply the binding. I find it applies the best pressure, gives the best fit, and ultimately ends up with the best structural integrity for the box. I put the binding on proud of the of the sides, and then just hand scrape the binding down flush with the sides. And then at this point the box is almost prepped for finishing. Here I am again tracking the frequencies, in this case the upper bout and lower bout main frequencies of the back, and then at which point I can tweak both the frequencies of the back and the top, and then move on to the neck. In this footage I'm starting to achieve the neck angle, both side to side lateral angle and the tip back angle, both of which are of course extremely critical to the final geometry of the instrument. I then cut the male dovetail on the neck and start hogging away the wood on the neck using both initially a spoke shave and then the number 50 Nicholson rasp. That footage is just showing me what we used to call shoe shining the neck, sort of evening out the contour of the trunk of the neck, at which point I move on and rough out the volute of the neck and the heel, and then prep the neck for finishing. Here we are in the French polish room. I make my own shellac from a recipe that Sergei and Yoshia Dijon gave me. They're the experts in French polishing and taught me everything I know about the process. French polishing is a way of applying shellac in a very even and thin film on the instrument that has an almost zero damping factor. It doesn't inhibit the vibration of the guitar at all. It's such a thin film, and I'm amazed at how it's improved the sound of my instruments and the overall response because of the zero damping factor. Here I am just French polishing the top of a non-cutaway Remuda model, and then in this footage the neck of course has been glued onto the body, at which point I crown the neck and do the final profiling of the fingerboard before installing the frets. And finally the bridge is glued on and the instrument's almost ready for stringing up, at which point I check all of the resonant frequencies, the top, back, air, and tweak things as necessary. And then, of course, make meticulous notes of the weights of all the components, the deflection properties of all the components, and the resonant frequencies at all the different stages, which is, of course, very helpful. Well, thanks a lot for dropping in on my shop tour. Keep on picking, and we'll talk to you later. Bye for now.